Thanks for tuning in to Healthy Planet One, where we discuss healthy living from experts in each of their fields. This is your host, Patricia Starr.
And your co-host, Kimberly Knock.
Today, our guest on Healthy Planet One is Jackie Simmons, and we're going to be talking about how to start conversations that really work. Welcome, Jackie. We're excited to have you on with us today. And you are quite the accomplished speaker, and I know that this is a very rich subject that you've been working on because you've done so much in terms of working with the Women's Entrepreneur Network. You've got your Success Journey Academy and the Messenger community, and now you've got this Teen Suicide Prevention Society. So you're engaged in a lot of conversations, and we want to hear what you have to say about that. So welcome.
Thank you very, very much, Patricia. Thank you for having me on. I love being part of this show. It is so much fun to be engaged with you all. So when it comes to having conversations that matter, what do you want to know?
What do we want to know?
Yeah, that's the response that I get most of the time. And the reason is because when a conversation truly matters, we don't know how to get them started.
Yeah.
Most people are afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, and so they say nothing. And that's completely wrong.
Or they might just kind of regurgitate on you too, right?
Yeah. Those are the two extremes. When the conversation's important and we go to either one of those extremes, either we go to silence or we go to spewing. There we go. Silence or spewing. We're going to give it some context. This is the holistic voice. And when it comes to having a holistic view of life, a holistic view of business, a holistic anything, where you're trying to talk about the whole, even the topic can seem overwhelming. So for purposes of our conversation this morning, let's take one slice out of the whole. And if we took the holistic community and put it into sections, one section would be finances. It would be your business. So we'll just call it the business side, business bucks, because that's one piece of the pie holistically. The other piece of the pie is impact, the impact that you want to have in the world. And this is the ongoing conversation that we've been having. What's the impact the holistic community wants to have? Then there's the resistance. What's the elephant in the room? What's the opinion that other people hold that has to be addressed effectively? That would be a conversation that matters. What are the assumptions and the opinions? Because here's what we know to be true. The brain will take an assumption, an opinion, a perspective, and sometimes other people's projections as truth if they are given to us in a very specific way. And I saw a great example of that on the internet, and we can talk about it in just a second. The fourth piece of the pie is the conversation that truly matters. What's the conversation you're having with yourself when it comes to your money, when it comes to your impact, when it comes to what might cause other people to step back? What's the conversation you're having with yourself? That's the conversation that truly matters. When I was doing straight sales training, which is the bedrock of Success Journey Academy, is I taught people how to sell without being salesy. I called it sales from the inside out. And I always started at the very beginning. And the beginning is, what are you selling yourself? We buy and sell ourselves the most important thing in the world all the time, and we don't even know we're doing it. We buy and sell ourselves on our belief systems. What we believe about ourselves when it comes to our money, what we believe about ourselves when it comes to our impact, what we believe about ourselves when it comes to other people. So the conversation that really matters is not what's coming out of your mouth. It's the conversation going on behind your eyes and between your ears. The one you're having with yourself.
Yeah. Really important.
When it comes to solving this mystery, consciously choosing to be a better advocate for yourself, your business, the change you want to see in the world, and for other people. This is the journey that I am on now. That's the value of the evolution that you were talking about. You know, going from teaching entrepreneurial women how to sell themselves on themselves to now take you to the world and going the cure for the epidemic. And it's not the epidemic of the day. It's the systemic epidemic that worldwide is taking 800,000 lives every year. It's not a pandemic. It's a pervasive negative mindset, which your brain is naturally wired for, that we get hooked into. And it creates self-sabotage along the way. And unchecked, it can lead to people selling themselves on dying, being better than living. And
wow, that's really powerful, Jackie. I want to hold up, not to stop your flow, but the impact of what you just shared is so important and powerful, because people talk about build your own confidence and take care, and believe in yourself and all of that. But you're getting really down to the nitty gritty, if you will. And this is why conversations are so important, starting with yourself. How many people think about starting with yourself? And you're really hitting the nail on the head here. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. This is what matters to me. So this conversation for me is a conversation that matters. Why? It's completely on purpose for me.
So how did this get started for you, hon?
This that you're talking about is talking about conversations that matter in terms of suicide prevention?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the topic. Here we go. The elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that for over 30 years, I was running a business. I'm the collision of stress management and business consulting. So I'm a dual consultant, if you will. And I've been working with my business, selling different one-on-one programs, selling together packages and group programs, and it was always selling. Because I didn't know it's the conversations we avoid that truly matter. And the conversation I was avoiding was the one I needed to have with myself. Why? Because every day I was buying and selling myself on a belief that said, if people could really get to know me, they would never want to trust me. They would never like me if they got to know me. That was the belief I was selling myself on. And once last summer at an event, when a secret that I didn't even realize I was keeping got exposed in a very public way, everything in my world changed. And here's for the people who haven't heard my story, the short version is that my daughter was writing for a book of inspirational stories for teens. She's in her 30s. She'd been asked to write a chapter and she was totally stuck, total writer's block. She was participating in an upcoming public speaking event and giving a 7-minute talk. She figured she could just speak her story and then get it transcribed because the event was being recorded. And I thought that sounded like a pretty good idea. Most things that we do sound like good ideas at the time. She asked me what to talk about, and I told her, just tell one of your never quit stories. Don't worry about which one, just pick one. They're all good. You're going to rock this. Well, my daughter rocked it all right. She rocked me. The morning of the talk was awesome. The videographer was set, the PowerPoints worked, and everything just flowed. People were getting into that nervous, excited state, you get into right before you give a talk. And I was super proud of my daughter because she volunteered to go first. And I know it showed in my voice when I welcomed her to the front of the room to introduce her. Yeah, I was the host of the event and I had no idea what was coming. So she started with a startling statistic. The statistic was 3,000 a day. 3,000 a day, that's the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day, just in the US, just teens, and just the ones that don't die. The number goes up if you add the ones who actually die. I had no clue the number was that high, and while I was recovering from the shock of that startling statistic, I almost missed where she went in her story. She started a sentence with, "When I was 14," and started publicly sharing about her multiple suicide attempts as a teenager that I had lived through, that we had worked through, and then we had put aside because there was no reason to bring it back up again. I hadn't learned that it's the conversations we avoid that truly matter. As shocked as I was when she was sharing about her story in public, what she said next shut down my heart, because she shared that she still struggled with suicidal thoughts. She manages to find joy every day, but she still struggles. And in the back of the room, I stopped breathing and my brain exploded with, how could I have missed this? For over 20 years, we've been silent on the subject.
Wow.
I got saved because she said she wanted to create a program for teens to help them find joy every day, to help them learn the coping skills she's learned along the way before they need them. So while everybody gave her a standing ovation and rushed up to hug her for being so vulnerable, I was in the back of the room taking 3 very deep, very slow breaths. And by the time everyone was reseated, I had a plan. I walked up to the front of the room and I had a plan. We could get it done. We could turn that book of inspirational stories into a book of stories that would help teens break the silence on suicide. I could help her create her program. How do we know? That's what I do. I create programs. So all good. I was ready. We could do it. We could get it done. And as good as it sounds and as needed as it is, all of that was really just another way for me to stay busy and avoid the conversation. And it might have worked. I might have managed to avoid the conversation because, trust me, we got busy. I mean, we got the book published. We did the bestseller campaign. We started doing a buy one, give two program. Somebody bought one book, we'd give 2 to teens for free. My living room looked like a book warehouse. We were busy. And my daughter was good with this. She's awesome. But we started getting attention, and I say but because if it had happened any other way, I probably could have stayed silent on the topic and just had the books going out. What happened is a TEDx organizer asked me to give a talk on this topic. Oh, crap. Was my reaction.
That'll drive it right home, right?
Yeah, there's nothing like being visible. And being visibly vulnerable is not something I would say that I had ever aspired to. So I wrote a TEDx talk. And everyone in the TEDx group, all my peers, they were absolutely enthusiastic. They thought I had done a great job. And then in a private one-on-one call, my TEDx coach called me out. And he called me out for being tactical and not vulnerable. And so I rewrote the talk and realized I couldn't give it. I couldn't give the talk because I hadn't had the conversation. In my TEDx talk, I'm talking about having conversations that matter, but I was still too busy to have the conversation that mattered with my daughter. And the reason is because I didn't want to know. Patricia, I didn't want to know what could cause my daughter so much mental and emotional pain that she would think that dying was better than living. But
even after all those years of work that you had initially done in the early days, right?
She was working with professionals, Patricia. So talk about being good at sales. I sold myself the idea that because she was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. basically I let it give me permission to